That is the unfortunate music you hear when we enter this podcast, this post-game show, with an abomination of a game. And this was that. With, the W to the Chargers, 23-16 in Denver. The too little too late game, as we showed some resilience, some fight back. We got off the mat just in time for the game to end. So super frustrating game. I know we're going to have a lot of feelings to buck, but this is your Buck Your Feelings post-game podcast. Let's get into it, folks.
Emotional damage.
And with that, we are at the post-game show here of Buck Your Feelings on the Orange and Blue Network. I am your host, Jay Weaver, the Dream Weaver, on this fun escapade of darkness and sadness as we continue on through the season. I have with me tonight Adon Diaz, a 6'10" Mexican, a regular, as you would put it, I guess. Man, how are you tonight on this terrible, terrible Sunday night?
Well, I think I'm done swearing for the night, but give me time. The night is still young. I mean, I honestly I'm running out of emotions. I'm running out of words. It's just freaking crazy how this game started. And it was almost like a recipe of what happened last week. You know, the Broncos got punched in the gut just like they did last week against the Raiders. And it looks like, okay, we were in for a bounce back. And unfortunately, instead of things going on the up and up, things just kind of went downhill for that entire first quarter. From PS2 getting hurt to the defense. You know what? I don't know what it is, but it looked like the defense of like 2 years ago was on that field. I mean, they couldn't stop the run. They couldn't get out of their own way. You know, that circus catch by a backup running back is going to haunt me all freaking week. I mean, and here we were worried about McConkey and Quentin Johnson running well, especially with PS2 out, and they got beat by a rookie running back. And,
you're killing me, Smalls.
Yeah, on a catch, and then J.K. Dobbins with that just super lucky stretch of a touchdown. And to me, this was a really embarrassing loss, just for the simple fact that it looked like every single piece of momentum that the Broncos have built up over the last 3 games just kind of went to hell. You know, from the defense to the offense, especially the coaching, which I'm pretty sure we're going to talk about today, Jay. But to me, it was a really big disappointment. I don't want to take away any credit because they did try to rally towards the end. But like I told you, Jay, before I turn it over to you before we started the show, if this is exactly how the Broncos are going to try to play all their games, which is try to look like a competent football team at the end of every freaking game, then we're it's going to be a shitstorm of a season.
Yeah. And we have seen games this year that have swung crazy momentum. Last week was a perfect example of that. We were stuck in win, not doing well, and then snap, PS2 shows up and shows why he is, arguably the best defensive player in this entire league. On the contrary, that momentum flip last week, I feel like the exact same thing happened this week in the opposite way of when he got the concussion and he was out. This was for the first time we saw this defense without the best defensive player in the league. And I think we saw the negatives and positives of how we have strength still on that side of the ball, even without Surtain, but our entire scheme and everything that we build on for the defensive side of the ball starts and ends with Patrick Surtain. So I just kind of feel like we saw an average defense today, the kind of defense that most other NFL teams have. So it's not necessarily that the defense lost us this game, because quite frankly, the Chargers offense is not that great. They're not good.
No.
We should have won this game. This is a game that kind of, it reminds me of last year's Washington game where we looked terrible the whole game, and we finally just woke up towards the end. It was a game where, and we'll get into the coaching aspect of this, but it is a continuation here of the meshing between developing Bo and letting Bo do what Bo does best. And this was a culmination game of tale of two halves, or a tale of 3 quarters and 1 quarter, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Bo Nix is our quarterback. Bo Nix was dubbed the franchise guy. So it is still crazy to me that we are still trying to put him in positions where he's not comfortable. And that'll be a whole soapbox I'm going to have here in a hot second. But I want to kind of turn it over to you to ask you what your perspectives are for this defense moving forward. Hopefully, knock on wood, PS2 is just out this game, clears protocols on a short week. But what do you think? What do you think of this defense moving forward?
I got to tell you, I am so just disgusted with what we saw today, because it is not, again, it took us back to exactly where we were week 1. It's almost like last week against the Raiders didn't happen. It is so disappointing, especially when we were starting to be on the mend with Javonte Williams, and then he goes off and gets that really ugly fumble. And this is exactly what I said on Broncos Talk was going to kill this team, is the fact that if the offense, granted, they have a rookie quarterback and Sean Payton is still, I wouldn't say a Cinderella year, but he's still trying to figure things out. It shouldn't take all the way till now to try to get things going anyway.
No, it shouldn't.
But, yeah, exactly. So it's really hurting this defense. And this defense, it is good. It is one of the best. However, the way you beat a really good defense is to tire them the F out. Tackles were missed. Coverages were blown. It's just like misplay after misplay after misplay. And when you keep your opponent in the game, you give them all the momentum. The amount of yards that the Broncos gave up in this game is ridiculous. And while I'm with you, I don't blame the defense, because they were out there more than they should have. And the offense either went 3 and out, it was a fumble, or it was a pick. So they did what they could in the first half. It wasn't enough. In the second half, I will give them credit. They came back around and they kept them out of the end zone at the most. The offense was just horrendous. They cannot go out and play like that again. Again, not to take anything away from the offense towards the end. Really glad that Troy Franklin finally got his first touchdown as a
that makes a little highlight.
And the circus catch by Cortland Sutton, I feel like we get one every single season. So
every year.
Yeah, every year.
One-handed.
Yeah, one-handed. So, I mean, to me, it just hurts. I mean, you saw it in the chat, Jay, and I'm pretty sure somebody in our chat said, I don't even want to watch this game. That's how bad it was. Imagine the people sitting at Mile High I'm pretty sure some of them left because they were like, the hell with this. They want to beat traffic or whatever. And that's really disappointing, Jay, especially in a division game. That's really what bothers me, is against any other team, I probably would be able to say, okay, you know what? They played us good. It's going to probably, maybe it'll be a while before we see them again, but it's the freaking Chargers, a team that came off of a bye. They really had no answer for in terms of, running the ball and high and quick plays and all that stuff. They didn't have none of that. It was just, it was just Justin Herbert in the pocket. He had way too much time to throw. And I knew that the Chargers tackles were going to be a problem. So I was expecting more of our interior defense to kind of, put the pressure on them and make them run to the sides and just, I don't know. It's just, it's a really ugly loss.
I would say, and I'm going to get to the comments here right after this, but I will say I had huge doubt in Justin Sternad coming into this game because his skill set is not to, stuff the run. It's not to go inside. He is definitely an outside linebacker in the sense of that he's good in coverage, but good pass rushing and situational. But he actually did quite a good job, I thought, in the running plays that went to his side. What was unfortunate was a lot of our safeties that came down, a lot of our cornerbacks, a lot of our outside linebackers just took terrible angles on some of those Dobbins outside rushes that just are unacceptable. But I knew going into this game, we were going to see a running attack that we had never seen before, this year. Harbaugh runs a very unique running style that no other NFL team really employs. So it's expected, but I just didn't expect Herbert to come through and have his season high passing yards in this game. I thought that we would lock him down, and I think as soon as PS2 went out, I think that was a spark for their coaching staff to say, whoa, all right, well, the playbook's open. Let's go do some things. Let's get to some shotguns. And they definitely hurt us in a lot of instances in plays that they're not normal to. They're not accustomed to. Coming off the bye, I think they said it in the broadcast, definitely in the beginning half, they did a lot of play formations and a lot of things that they've never done thus far. Maybe to take us off our tracks from our film study. But they did a lot of random stuff that you can tell this was a team coming off a bye. So want to get to the comments here. We got Blitzby repping in here. First half play calls were disgusting. Sean Payton, cut the leash and let Bo cook. That's a whole soapbox that I know Adon and I have very strong feelings about that we will get to here. But D-Rock also in the house. Blitz, what a game. Geez, straight dookie sushi. Bottom barrel crap, man. It was super bad. We also have, the man, the myth, the legend, Johnny Mile High Baki. Hopefully he is still 10-2ing as he's commenting here. But what really happened is we saw what happens when Vance Joseph doesn't have the weapon that allows him to call the defense the way he does. And he didn't do a good job of playing without him. And that's kind of what my point was before, Johnny, of like, for the first time, we saw an average defense, and we didn't get to see the advantages and benefits that we get from PS2. This really, honestly, this should be a PS2 appreciation game, because this showed the polar opposite of what last game did, of how much it sucks to not have a shutdown corner schematically for a defense.
If I can counter to that, like, okay. Let me just say, I get it. PS2 is a very important piece of this defense. However, Patrick Surtain does not play every single position on the secondary. So while he is good at what he does, everybody else around him needs to be good at what they do. And that, to me, was the biggest deficiency. It was kind of like everybody around after the PS2 injury went down, it was like nobody had any idea what the hell they were doing. Brandon Jones had an interception literally go right through his hand. We saw McMillan have a really, he had a holding call when everybody knew they were going to run the ball. Why are you holding under 5 yards? That was the most dumbest thing. And the Broncos could have had the ball and they could have given Bo Nix a chance to march down the field. So there were a lot of mistakes that were made and a lot of missed tackles. There was a lot of crap that went down after the PS2 went down. So I expected the Chargers to pick on his side where PS2 would normally be. But instead, they were going around picking around the different corners of the defense, and the defense was either late to respond or they did not respond at all, and they gave up the conversions when conversions didn't need to be given up. And that is very, very dangerous, because Vance Joseph cannot be playing like that, especially if we're not uncertain about PS2's injury going forward.
And Johnny brings it up, and so does D-Rock, of that we went from an aggressive man coverage defense that is the staple of Vance Joseph. Vance Joseph always has been as a defensive coordinator, and we went back to what he started doing at the beginning of last year, which was this vanilla zone crap that doesn't entice any aggression, which just falls back and basically just plays safe. And that was the downfall. You're right. And I think that's why they had as much success as they did through the air. I mean, again, Justin Herbert had his best game of the season through the air
against
it's
Denver.
Not a coincidence. Yep. Not a coincidence. So I don't know, man. But I will say, the one highlight I will give for the defense is the defensive line still looks very good. The other things that we were talking about is as far as run support, not so much, but like specifically, Zach Allen still had a very good game. Nick Bonino with another sack, 4 straight now. Hadn't been done since Von Miller, I heard on broadcast. Nick Bonino is a guy. Didn't really hear a whole lot from anyone else necessarily. Sternad had a sack. But
Franklin Myers almost had a safety, if I'm not mistaken. He missed a sack. That was also another big thing when sacks needed to be made in the first half. Justin Herbert is not that elusive. He had a bad ankle. There is no way those guys should have missed those sacks. So that was a little bit disappointing. But J.K. Dobbins was kept under check. He didn't run crazy. So that is a little bit concerning, though, that he still was able to score. Our linebackers continue to be an issue. I'm kind of disappointed in Barton. I thought Barton was on the up and up and playing a whole lot better. And on that, like I said, on that one touchdown to that rookie running back, I don't know what the hell he was thinking. I don't know if it was busted coverage or he didn't know where he needed to be. And it was just like, it didn't need to happen. So those are the things that need to be corrected going forward.
I will say, even though I give a little praise to Sternad, and it's not like, oh, no, you're the reason why this happened as far as rush defense. This is the first game, in my estimation, that we felt the true impact of Alex Singleton not being on this field. He would have been hands down from a communication standpoint, I think a lot better than where we were set up without PS2, especially when, you're in an unfamiliar situation as far as personnel on the defensive side. You lean on your leaders, you lean on your communication to make sure people are in the right spot when you're never used to playing zone, for instance. So, also got Flying Dragon Films in the chat here. What's up, all? My bigger issue is offensive line. Until we get healthy, it's going to be tough. So let's move on to the other side of the ball, because I think, the defense, although obviously didn't play that well, I thought they played well enough to win this game if our offense wasn't absolutely atrocious for 3/4 of this game. Don, do you want to go for just your overall before we spin out to specifics on the offense? Just where are you with the offense right now?
The offensive line definitely needs to play better. I know that we do have 2 backups in there, and today it showed. Quinn Miners, who's a name you hardly ever hear in terms of getting flagged, was picked like the worst time to get flagged. When it looked like the Broncos offense was starting to get some momentum, they get called on a flag. So
that would have been points. I mean, that Sutton catch was points. Field goal range easy.
Yeah, exactly. So the thing is that it kind of seems that every time this offensive line tries to get something going, an injury comes and messes it up. Okay. I'm still not high on Mike McGlinchey, mind you. So I still consider him to be a giant waste of money in terms. And here I thought that we had fleeced Chicago when they got him from San Francisco. And so far, McGlinchey has not really done anything to say, wow, we finally found the answer at right tackle. So that continues.
He played better than him.
Yeah, exactly.
He's played amazing, but he just didn't play.
Yeah, exactly. So that still continues to be a really bit of it hurts to say because you're paying that man a lot of money and he's hurt. He's not playing. I don't think he'll be back probably until week 9, I think. I don't really know when his injury designation is, but he's still miles way better ahead than Dulcich, I'll tell you that. But they're not working in tandem together to get this running game going. Today, the person with the most rushing yards was Bo Nix. And that's just because in most of those drives, he was running for his life. If Bud Dupree was a better pass rusher, he would have had Bo Nix like a deer in the headlights twice.
Yeah.
Okay. So we got lucky it was him and not Joey Bosa. And it shouldn't be that way. Don't get me wrong. I like to see Bo Nix scramble and getting yards, but I also worry because linebackers and cornerbacks, they don't care. They're coming in like a missile, man. And they're going to come and they're going to hit our quarterback hard. And he's the one person that cannot go down and get hurt. Okay, out of everybody. Don't get me wrong. I don't want any Bronco to get hurt, but especially the quarterback, he's the one person that when he runs, you kind of clinch because you don't know what's going to happen, who's going to come at him and try to blindside him or just get him down. But it was just terrible all the way around. It kind of looked like there was no chemistry whatsoever. And this Broncos offense for the first 3 quarters made it look like the Chargers had the best defense in this division, which is far from the truth. Okay.
Yeah.
I still think that our defense is still better than the Chiefs. It's definitely better than the Raiders because the Raiders got clobbered today. And it's still better than what the Chargers had out there. The only thing that I'll give the Chargers credit that they probably have better than us is Derwin James. And that was a name that was a guy that was really kind of concerning me going into this game because Derwin James has usually been a thorn on our side. But today he really wasn't. The interception wasn't even from him. It was from the other safety, if I'm not mistaken, who just made a circus catch of all.
That's not on Bo. That's a tip ball.
Yeah.
You know, that's shit happens for lack of a better term. So that's not an interception on Bo. I mean, the only turnover I would say is Pookie's. Pookie is, you don't put the ball on the ground, dude. Like we've been over this.
Yeah.
So that's not a huge deal. And I think specifically to the offensive line, yet another game where Garrett Holds comes up in a bad way. I was very worried with Pert starting instead of Palchevsky, as well as Palchevsky has played on that right side. I saw no difference, honestly, that like he was getting more pressure on one side or the other. I thought he was getting equal pressure on both sides. He constantly had to spin out of the pocket collapsing. And my gosh, he's good at that. Bo is incredible as a pocket manipulating spinster. He's kind of, I mean, this is maybe too soon, but like he kind of reminds me in that regard of what Russell Wilson could do when he was athletic and young. He just can't do that anymore. I wouldn't expect Bo to be able to do that in his 13th year or whatever it is either. But as a rookie, heck yeah, that guy can spin. But there was constant pressure, especially the first 3 quarters, like we said. Running game just was non-existent. Williams is not a burner. He's not a guy. He fights for a little bit extra yards, but it's far and few between when he actually makes an impact of like, oh wow, there's an extra 4 yards I can atone to Javonte just pushing a pile. The frequency of that just doesn't line up anymore with what our expectations are for that player. Jaleel McLaughlin, nothing, didn't really do a whole lot. He's been an extremely underwhelming, disappointing player this season, I think, thus far. I had a lot of high expectations for him. I thought he would be far more involved. He's done pretty well passing, like catching the ball on those nice little screens, and then he can get a nice juke and spring free. I think he did a touchdown a couple games ago just doing that. But, man, it's inept talent, and we go back to the same debate, the same discussion. Blitz comes up and says, I definitely think Sean Payton's the problem. Bo's elite, and his running is insane. So drop some RPOs and let the man cook. There are multiple sides to this where I can understand Sean Payton's thoughts of like, well, if we don't throw a 50-50 ball up to court, what else do we have? Like, we don't have any talent on this offense. And we certainly don't have any talent to put 4 wide, 5 wide, spread them like Bo is comfortable doing in Oregon. We see that in the fourth quarter where we start finally just making that happen and just goodbye with the double tight end formations, goodbye with the jumbo packages, and we just spread it out and go pace. And that seems to be the only success rate that we're seeing consistently with this offense. Specifically with Sean Payton, where do you come down on what you saw today from Sean Payton?
Well, the thing with the double tight end formation says the Broncos don't have any freaking tight ends to run them. That's the thing.
There's that too.
So there's a comment that said that if the Broncos need to be buyers, and they definitely need to be. There was one play where the announcers ran it, where they literally showed on the replay every single wide receiver was covered on the left side of the ball. The entire right side of the field was completely empty. You could have had a tight end literally run a slant or a cross or straight up on that side of the field every single drive, and he would be open. Not to take anything away from Lucas Krull. I know he was pretty popular.
He's best player in camp.
Yeah,
best player on the team.
He was pretty popular with Russell Wilson last year. He had a couple of moments to shine. But again, Dulcich, complete waste of a roster spot. I would definitely take the cap hit and just cut him. And I would literally take a practice squad player tight end over him right now. So the Broncos need to go out and get Bo Nix another weapon if they want to stay in competition. And a tight end is definitely needed. I've seen it for most of the games that I saw today. The tight end is probably one of the most, especially in fantasy season, it's one of the hardest positions to play right now because we're not the only team that doesn't have one. So the teams that do, some of them have two. Like I know the Ravens have been mentioned a lot in Broncos country in terms of telling them to go out and get Mark Andrews. And Mark Andrews had a revival of a game today against the Commanders.
He had a great game, I saw.
Yeah. Yep. So if the Broncos can go out and get another weapon, it doesn't necessarily have to be a wide receiver because the Broncos have wide receivers. A true number one, like a Malik Neighbors and all that, I unfortunately, no. There will be plenty of time in the offseason to try to get a player like that. However, you don't want to have that same problem again that you had going into from the preseason. And Tim Patrick, I know, had a fantastic day with the Lions. They put the shellacking on the Cowboys. So a tight end is definitely going to be needed. I need Sean Payton to do something because I almost don't even want to watch the conference recap after this post game because I know it's just going to be a bunch of I don't know, just Sean Payton mumble joke. There's something about Sean when we lose where it just it doesn't sound like sincere. It sounds like he's reading something off of a card, and I'd rather him just Belichick it and say, "Hey, on a New Orleans."
He's a very smug character that doesn't like to put out the perception that he lost. Like he doesn't want to concede. So that throughout the whole season we've talked about, and we had a whole Mile High matrix about this on a Nothing Rhymes pod at one point of, do you let Bo just go? Just let Bo do what he wants, spread formation, let's roll back to Oregon, or do we, continue what Sean Payton really wants to do and what Sean Payton's scheme is and roll with the punches, knowing that Bo's not ready developmentally. We don't have the talent around him to run that offense straight up. Right now, we are literally we're running Sean's system until all hell breaks loose and we have to run Bo's system. And then right when we run Bo's system, voila, we're back in games and we're moving the offense. And that's why we have abysmal offense. And then just randomly, first drive after halftime or first drive in the fourth quarter, snap. It's like it's a brand new offense. We have no weapons, though. So that is not a recipe that you can roll out there 4 quarters. I'd like to see it. I doubt we'll ever see it because that's not what Sean's MO is. But to his point, I understand that, I don't want to destroy our quarterback's confidence with tons of picks if we do that. And I don't want him getting hurt because, as we saw in the fourth quarter, although it's exciting, you do that for 4 quarters through an entire season, there ain't no way Bo is surviving health-wise. It's fun, it's exciting, but we got to do what's best for the overall long arc of Bo. And that's to give him some development in a system that he's maybe not accustomed to. Don't run a college offense. Because I still believe Sean Payton's system works. I still believe in Sean Payton. I just don't believe in Sean Payton's vision for the offense this year. It's very frustrating. And we have a lot of comments just kind of about what needs to happen, what's not happening. Blitz says Bo needs to run more run plays for himself, and he's proven he can scramble. So let the man cook on the ground. It's one of those things where we're not. And Flying Dragons Films brings up, when we were down by 17 the first half, we couldn't do anything to take any pressure off of Bo. We couldn't get any running game to help, facilitate, less pressure coming his way from a pass rush standpoint. It sucks. And Blitz brings up a comparison, which neither of these quarterbacks have Sean Payton being the headmaster of their offenses. Jalen Daniels has
Cliff Kingsbury.
Yeah, Cliff Kingsbury, who is a genius at putting his quarterbacks in the perfect position for them. That's why he has success with as many quarterbacks as he does. It's not necessarily his system. It's whatever is tailored to the skill set that he has. And Caleb, I think, is just kind of one of those players that's going to be very hot and cold. And we've already seen that thus far. Caleb does what Caleb wants. And it's Caleb's system. Caleb is going to do whatever he wants at the line. Caleb is a completely different thing because he runs the offense already as a rookie. Whereas Bo, the first moment that he wanted to do something on his own and audible out of a Sean play, we saw it last week. Sean blew up at him on the sideline and then called him a name after in press conference that Bo sneakily attacked right back on an Instagram post with the Ferris Bueller intro with some of his highlights from that game. Classic Bo Nix, you know what? F you, Sean. I do what I want.
Yeah. And what the hell was that 2-point conversion play? That was not the time to get cute. That really pissed me off too. You're trying to get back into the game. You are not going to catch the Chargers defense sleeping like that. And if you're going to run a gadget play like that, not to take any away from Mims, but you need somebody really speedy that can get to the edge of that play. You cannot cut in the middle, which is what Mims tried to do, which made it worse. And Perriman got to him, a linebacker who had no business trying to catch a guy like Mims with his type of speed. So
it's irritating that we'll do that on a 2-point conversion that's ultra important, but we won't do that on a 2nd and 10 where we really need to introduce Mims plays like that, because Mims has a skill set to do that. Totally in favor of that play, just not at the time he called it.
Yeah. And again, we're getting away from the screens. It's 2 years ago all over again. Just because the screen doesn't work twice, we're not going to run it again for the rest of the game. And when you see the Chargers do it, you're just kind of sitting there looking like, why can't we do it? We have quick elusive running backs too. It's so just, it kind of makes me want to go on Twitter and yell at Vince Lombardi, but I can't because I know it's not him calling the plays. It's Sean Payton doing it. So
Joe Lombardi.
It's Joe Lombardi. Sorry, not Vince Lombardi. See, that's how pissed I am. I confused the Lombardi.
Damn it, Vince.
Joe Lombardi. I can't yell at him, but it's Sean Payton calling the plays, and Joe's just holding a clipboard, I guess. I don't know what he's doing up in the booth.
Flying Dragons comes back in, basically saying that same thing. The season is about figuring if Bo is the man. And I don't think this game answered that question. And I would say, honestly, Flying Dragon, on the contrary, I think it kind of does. Because I think thus far we've kind of pinpointed that the result of the game's crap. We don't like it. But we have been seeing developmental progress from Bo game after game after game as far as his athletic ability, his swagger, his decision-making. Again, not putting that interception on him. But other than that play, it's not like he overthrew a lot of wide receivers. It's not like he had there was a couple bad timings between him and Court. But all in all, I thought Bo played pretty dang well. Just not set up for success system-wise and personnel-wise. So if anything, I'm actually getting more confident about Bo as these games roll on here and we keep seeing more and more out of him. I don't know, man. We got Shy up in here too. I am so upset. And dude, I'm right there with you. It's hard not to be upset after that. I said to you, Adon, like before we went on, I was pissed off, obviously, the whole game. But then we get to the fourth quarter and we show light and we start doing something completely opposite of that what we showed the rest of the game. And that's actually more frustrating than if we would have just closed the game out eating shit like we had been for the rest of the game. We showed that, oh, just kidding, we're a really good team. We just chose to, take a poop for 3/4 of this game. That's more frustrating to me. Like, I don't know, just the timing of everything. So what about special teams? Haven't really touched on special teams a lot. There wasn't like tons of noteworthy things, I'd say. Any comments on special teams?
Just that they need to go back to the practice board, because if that guy just was a second earlier, the Broncos recovered the ball.
Yeah.
And it just goes to show you they had another chance. So you would have figured that they would have tried something else different, but Lutz literally went for the exact same kick, and it almost went in the exact same direction, except it wasn't short. It went a little bit longer. So onside kicks continue to be, and I really don't want to blame them for that much, because onside kick recoveries are one of the hardest things to do in football. You really need a lot.
Now that we have to declare them.
Yeah,
when you didn't have to declare them, you at least could surprise someone.
Yeah, and you have to be trailing, and it can only be in the fourth quarter. So now they throw that into the mix. So it can't be as surprising anymore. However, that also gives you a chance to be a little more genius with it. You can still try to convince them to make a bobble, a misstep, and recovery. Again, the Broncos had 2-3 chances to get the ball back in the fourth, and they didn't do it. They didn't do it, but they messed it up. The holding call on McMillan, the missed recovery on that onside kick, and the fact that Sean Payton used his touchdowns just under 5 minutes, and the defense wasn't able to stop the run. Okay, and again, while our front seven is really, really good, the sacks were just not there, and they gave Justin Herbert way too much time in the pocket to make plays. So
he's a great quarterback.
Yeah, he is. But he had way too much time. So the good thing is, the only good thing about this is there's going to be a game 2 against the Chargers in LA. So there's going to be a lot of tape for these boys to go over and look at. Maybe not so much right now, because they have to kind of put this in the back burner and get ready for New Orleans. But when they do get to sit down and look things over, there's going to be a lot of things going on that are going to have to change for when the rematch comes. And if I'm Justin Herbert, enjoy the victory, man, because Patrick Surtain II is going to definitely be there for the second one. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say that he will not have the exact same amount of luck next time around.
Yeah. And, again, not trying to harp on it, but this kind of, catapults us into another comment. But, Blitz still says, we need to give Bo more autonomy. He needs more designed runs. He's very quick, can pick up yards. You see the awareness he has in the pocket. He's got a lot of Lamar Jackson traits, vanilla Knicks. Let him roll. And I do also like that he gets down when he knows, like, all right, got the first down. I'm going to get hit. Let's just get down. Like, he's got a good head on his shoulders when it comes to that as well. And not all runners have that. But here's where unfortunately we're not going to have the full vanilla Knicks experience that we all probably want to see. And Flying Dragons films brings up, who in that building is going to tell Sean that he needs to adapt? Absolutely no one. Because Sean Payton runs that building. There is no one above Sean. Not
except
even
the owners.
Well, but yes and no. I mean, you got George Payton, who knows in the hierarchy of life within that organization, but it's not like he's making coaching decisions. Everything schematically starts and ends with Sean Payton. So he's never going to give play calling duties up. He's never going to not have his guy as an offensive coordinator, that we would maybe have a third party representative for an offensive coordinator, maybe just trying to say, well, Sean, maybe we do something like this. No, it's always going to be his guy. And that's why Joe Lombardi's here. It's because that's his guy. He's always agreeable to Sean Payton, and that's what Sean Payton wants. So, we're not going to get it. We've got Bronco Rob in here as well. I'd like to know why they went for the field goal instead of the touchdown. Well, it's because we needed a field goal. That would have cut it. Well, it did cut it to, at least a one possession game. So after, who was it? Was it Cortland on that last big throw? We got in field goal range, and then we quickly ran that field goal unit out, just because you got to get points as quick as possible. I don't know. What are your feelings on this? This is another strategic thing that just kind of irks me a little. Wasting all three of our timeouts with like over 5 minutes left in the game is kind of like a hockey team pulling their goalie with 7 minutes left in a game. And I always disagree with that, no matter the momentum, no matter the game situation, because you never know what's going to happen. Someone could fumble a snap. Someone could do something. So I want to have those timeouts to strategically be used, because as we saw, Sean wasted 2 of those timeouts and they got a first down quite easily. So right out of the gate, that's just a complete waste of the timeout utilization. I don't know. Did that irk you probably as much as me?
Yeah, definitely. I just mentioned it a few minutes ago that I didn't get it. Even the announcer said the same thing. Like, I think that's a mistake. The Broncos defense was not playing 3 and out. If the Broncos defense was playing 3 and out, then I'm for it. But unfortunately, they weren't. To answer your question, Bronco Rob, even if the Broncos get a touchdown, they still need a field goal. So they were still down. The field goal was the most safest thing that they could do, because if they don't get a touchdown or they try on downs, that eats up more clock. So the field goal was the more conservative option. But you still needed either one regardless, unless Bo Nix goes out on the next play and throws a touchdown and catches the defense snoozing. But they hadn't done it in 3 quarters. So it was too much of a gamble to go out there and try to eat up more clock and get a touchdown and then have to go out and try to recover the onside kick. So, but again, just so you guys understand, this is a situation that the Broncos didn't need to be. They put themselves in that situation. Okay, they had 3 quarters to go out and put up points, and they spent 3 of it with 0. The defense spent more time out there than they did. The Chargers offense had more time of possession than the Broncos did. Everything just hit the fan, and it really pisses me off, because this was a Chargers team that came in. They went into their bye week reeling, hurt
Totally
as all hell.
Game.
Yeah, totally winnable game. The Broncos had the advantage that they didn't have Joey Bosa, and they just had to worry about Khalil Mack. And it's a surprise that we didn't hear his name being called out all game, in terms of being the game record that he's usually been against Denver in the past. So the Broncos had a lot of chances to win this game, and they didn't take up on it. They waited until the very last second. The interception, again, Jay, we get it. It went off the wide receiver's hands. It was thrown a little bit too high, and the safety made a circus catch, because he literally he just happened to be there, and he was, I don't know. It's just weird when you look back at it. Yeah. And it's just, when I'm just so at a loss. I'm trying to say without cursing, when you can't get that fire lit up under you, and you need 3 quarters to figure, like, hey, we're about to lose this game, and you run out of time, like, that's not how you win. That's not how you're going to win Mexican. That's not how you're going to win football games, especially going into the playoffs, because if the Broncos can squeak into the playoffs, it is going to be the best of the best, where mistakes like that are going to be punished times 10.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think you're right. And I think, this is more of a relatable thing to basketball, in that when players are not challenged, when players are not motivated, they seem to not play up to their potential.
Mhm.
But when we get to the end of the game and the going gets tough and like the heat is finally on them, then they step up and perform and really like jump out. And Blitz kind of says something similar of like that. Yeah, we need to keep Sutton. He's just not consistent enough. He wants to get a big name receiver that kind of puts a fire under his ass as far as Bo. But consistency is everything. We don't have an alpha wide receiver. Even
Mm-mm.
Sutton is not an alpha. That's why he's probably a number 2 or 3. We've said this multiple times on multiple shows. But we don't have a gimme the damn ball guy. And that's desperately what this offense needs as a supreme motivator for this offense. And that's why it consistently looks dead. And we're looking for Sean Payton to resurrect it and give it energy. That's not what Sean Payton is. That's, Sean Payton runs a very old school, let's just Neanderthal through the drive, 4 yards at a time. That ain't giving anyone on offense the juice to like, let's effing go. And we just don't have that guy. And that's, whether it's tight end or wide receiver or even running back, we don't have it. It's a talent issue. Bo's the closest thing. And that's why I'm so happy, because at least we have someone that's like that, because we haven't had that in a long time. Russell Wilson was not that. Russell
Mm-mm.
Wilson was a let's be quiet and clap kind of guy. I don't know. We have a lot of disadvantages on offense, on that offensive side of the ball. It's sickening. Let's see here. We got D-Rock. He has thrown off. He will henceforth be picking against the Broncos and not wearing my colors. I will not give drinking Amy Winehouse's in his name. Whatever that means. But I know that he had been picking against the Broncos every game, and we had won every one of those games. And he's been, mixing the white and the black liquors as well, or the white and dark liquors. So I think he's over with that as well. So thank you, D-Rock, for that. One other position, and I want to get to game balls here, but one other position I just want to take note of. Alex Forsythe had his start at center. And in comparison to Luke Wattenberg, what we saw in preseason, why Wattenberg won the job, was that Wattenberg was more well-rounded from a pass blocking standpoint. Forsythe mostly being a run blocking kind of tight or center. Again, I didn't see massive difference, but it's kind of hard to see difference in center. But like, would you say that they saw more or less pressure specifically up the middle? Pass pro?
Well, the Chargers don't really have. They're more known for their edge rushers, which is Khalil
You're
Mack
right.
and Joey Bosa. So the
Yep.
interior, their most veteran would probably be Perriman, and Perriman's starting to get up there in age. So
Sure.
that's why the fact that he was able to tackle Mims and that 2-point conversion was really pissed me off, because it's like anybody but him. So it just goes to show you how this. And it is worrisome, because the Saints' defensive line is a little bit tougher than the Chargers in terms
They're
of
aggressive defense. They're
their
very aggressive
interior.
defense.
Their edge rushers are starting to get a little bit up there in age, just like Khalil and Bosa, but their
Yep.
interior defensive line, they can get at you. But I do think that you're right. The Broncos in this offseason, they need to go shopping for a wide receiver one if they can't get one in the draft. But to bring one in now would kind of be a little bit. I think a tight end would probably be the more safer bet. I wouldn't be opposed if they swung for the fences, and that's something that the front office needs to think about, because if they're going to be brave and make all these decisions where it doesn't matter what name is on your back, if you're expendable, doesn't matter what you cost, and you're not going to be a contribution to this team, your ass is out of here. So if they're going to have that attitude going forward, then they need to have that attitude to say, hey, go out to Sean Payton or whoever and say, hey, what do we need to give Bo Nix to make him successful? Do we need to go out and get an offensive lineman? Do we need to go out and get him a tight end, or something needs to happen? The fact that we're getting this close to week 7 and there have been 0 trades made all around the NFL is anything but surprising. But I think that's all going to change starting on Tuesday, going into the following the deadline is what, after week 8, right? So it would
Correct.
be
We
first
just
that
looked this up.
that first Tuesday of November,
I think
right
so.
right
Yeah,
after Monday Night
November.
Football. Yeah, when Week 8 is officially over. So I do think we'll be seeing some movers. The Broncos definitely do not need to be sellers unless they're going to trade Dulcich for like a bag of popcorn or something. But they need to be buyers. They need to give Bo Nix more weapons, and they need to make his job a lot easier because these 3 and outs are starting to get frustrating, and they're going to start costing the Broncos games going forward.
Yeah, and my whole opinion, and I know in like our group chat, we've thrown out different like, hey, should we go after George Pickens? George Pickens is pissed off in Pittsburgh, or DeAndre Hopkins. He's out there. Should we go get someone like him? Or obviously Devontae Adams. We've spoke about that already. And I'm not a huge fan of those kind of things because I feel like those are band-aids for contending teams that like need one special playmaker to get over the hump, and we're far from that. We need a younger player that we can sign to a multi-year contract that can build chemistry and continuity with Bo. We certainly don't need a rental. And any veteran wide receiver that we bring in like that is only going to be a 1 or 2 year kind of guy. So other than maybe like T. Higgins, which still has plenty of gas in the tank because of his utilization in Cincinnati and his age, I'd be more for that than someone like Amari Cooper, who, he's old as dirt. Like, come on. He's got a couple of years left in him as far as his skill set being relevant. So I don't know. I want to be buyers, but I want to be smart buyers. And, just to cap off this conversation, then we'll go into some game balls here.
Mm-hmm.
From a selling standpoint, there ain't a whole lot of people on this team that would warrant a draft pick that we would be willing to give up. We've already seen through multi-years here that Cortland Sutton is not worth what we would be getting back in return.
Mm-hmm.
It's not worth us trading for a 6th-round draft pick to ship Court away.
I'll settle for a middle linebacker on defense. I think we need that like there's no tomorrow, and we saw that today.
Yeah, but those are easy positions to get in the offseason, to be quite honest with you. A run stopping middle linebacker. That's what we did with Barton. That's what we did with Alex Singleton. Like, we've had plenty of tread on that to just go plug someone else in on a free agent. So I don't know. The only other like wild card person that I would like to maybe see shipped out, but he's got to be healthy enough to warrant something, would be Baron Browning on a contract year for a contender to go say, hey, let's go get one more pass rusher for the playoff run. Baron Browning could be that. But that's all considering if we don't plan on signing him, which I don't think we should. I think we should go be signing Cooper right now. Because Cooper would be my guy if we had to pick one or the other. Because, Nick Benito, like I said before, 4 games in a row with a sack, not done since Von Miller. That's a huge deal. Nick Benito is finally paying dividends to George Payton with kind of the deep draft pick that he was. A lot of head scratches for that specific draft spot that he went. We kind of reached for him, but we're finally starting to see the fruit of the labor in Nick Benito. So with that, let's get into some game balls. Just kind of go over some of the highlights, some of the things that, we liked about this game. So here we go. Let's go. All right. So we got some game balls here. I don't have tons of great things to say. Understandably. I would like to take game balls away that I gave previously, to be quite honest. But what do you think about 2 game balls apiece here?
That's what I was going to say. Like, there's no way we're going 3 today. No freaking way.
Top 2 players.
Yeah.
You want to start us off?
Yeah. I'll take the first one, and I'm going to give the first one to Troy Franklin because I think he he showed up today. He made up for his his missed catch last week, and he got his first touchdown, and he got his first taste of an NFL touchdown. And it kind of looks like they're on their way in terms of building that chemistry that we saw in Oregon. And an honorable mention would be Vele, who made that beautiful catch on 4th and 2 and ran and set up that drive to begin with. So we're starting to see the youth slowly creep in. But again, that's kind of like seeing that the playbook was slowly starting to open in the fourth quarter, and they took that gamble. That play shouldn't have went all the way to 4th down, and it shouldn't have been that freaking close. That should have happened in the first quarter, second or third. It shouldn't have gone all the way to the end. So we need to take that momentum that we saw in the fourth and apply it to 3 other different quarters in football. And this Broncos team is definitely, the offense anyway, it's definitely going to be on the mend. But shout out to Troy Franklin. He's the only person on the offense not named Bo Nix who I think showed up today and really tried to do the best that he could to his ability.
Now that was going to be one of my balls, so you stole
let me go
a
first.
good one right out of the gate. But yeah, dude, Troy Franklin is gonna be a guy. I know we heard just such negative thoughts about him during the training camp, of that coaches were just screaming at him and he wasn't taking the criticism well. And he's used to being a number one. He's used to being a baller. He's used to, he's the Oregon all-time leader in receptions or receiving yards last year with Bo. Like, he had a historic season. And to come off of that to a training camp in which you're just getting screamed at and ostracized, I'm sure it's tough, especially going to a Sean Payton training camp, which is, tough in and itself.
Mm-hmm.
He is an alpha. His skill set might not be alpha, but personality-wise, he is an alpha. So I'd like to see a little bit more out of that. He's got some sizzle to him. And he obviously has chemistry with Bo. And I think his, maybe lack of demeanor in a personality standpoint, Bo knows him well enough to like check him and say, yo, just let's calm down a little bit. Like, so I love that. Love that game ball, dude. And I really think we're about to see Troy Franklin get more and more and more opportunities the farther we get down the road here. My first game ball is going to go to the man, Bo Nix. It's crazy to give a game ball to a guy that I don't remember the exact time. I was going to write it down and I didn't, but he had 14 passing yards in the third quarter at some point in time. And it just was mind-boggling that this was the production we were getting out of our starting quarterback. But from that point, like 14 yards in the third quarter, he ends the day with 216 with a quarterback rating of 84.9. Completely flipped the script. We just wish we could have seen that the entire game. But man, he's got spark to him. I know the Ferris Bueller comments really got him razzed up. Like I said, the response that he had this week on Instagram, I love that stuff. I want my quarterback to be an alpha, to be a guy that's not going to take crap from anyone, and to really like command his team, because this is Bo Nix's team, not Sean Payton. Sean Payton wants to have the ego of that this is all his doing. He picked Bo Nix, specifically picked him out so that he could take credit for any successes that would come from Bo Nix. Nah, man, F that. This is Bo Nix's team. And if you let Bo Nix cook and you let him have autonomy to check plays at the line and have a little more creativity to him, I think the sky's the limit for the guy, because he's playing out of his mind when he's allowed to. So game ball to Bo Nix for sure. Don, what do you got on your docket for the next one here?
D-Rock took the words right out of my mouth. Zach the Stack Allen, he continues to be the winner of at least for me, in terms of getting another game ball. This man, he was probably the only. I would like to imagine that going into that locker room at halftime, that Zach Allen had everybody just huddled in together and say, hey, wake the F up. Defense, get your ish together. Offense, put up some freaking points. We are not trying to get shut out at home. These are the like something inspirational that could probably make it to a movie. And just the man continues to go out there. It's kind of weird to think he's only been in this league for 6 years, but just the mindset that he has on this football team kind of makes it look like he's been playing for like longer than that. So I was really happy that they put up the graphic for him. 6 years, spent 4 of them in Arizona, and thankfully he came to Denver. And his second year here, I mean, the man is just. I'm telling you, when I was watching the Thursday night football game and I heard Draymond Jones' name mentioned for like the first time in forever, I just laughed because I'm like, I'm so glad we don't have to deal with him and the drama and everything that happened when we thought that we had lost our interior defense when he came and we had Zach Allen. I had my doubts. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. I'm pretty sure I said something smart, and I'll damn for sure sit here and eat crow and say I was wrong. Zach Allen continues to be the machine that keeps on chugging, and that man will not rest until there's a W on the board for Denver.
Heck yeah, man. No, that's he's a stud, man. He's on the trajectory to be a Pro Bowler. He's playing out of his mind. I keep going back. He's little JJ Watt, man. He's the mini JJ Watt. He was under the tutelage of him, and he looks totally like him. I really like Zach Allen a lot. Well worth the contract he has. I know he makes quite a bit of money, but he deserves every penny of it. So absolutely love it. Before I want to give my game ball out, we were set up in this game. I don't know if you caught it, to have the perfect joke because Jim Harbaugh left the sideline.
Yeah.
And he comes back in different pants. Ladies and gentlemen, the man shit his pants on the sideline. That is the only explanation I will take. And we could have been set up with, we played so well, we made the coach shit his pants.
Wow.
I
did not even notice that. I remember I was driving home from work when that happened. And when I got home, they're like, oh, he's back out on the field. And he had took the headset back from whoever had it before. And I was like, oh, okay, he's back. But I don't recall ever even looking at his pants.
Yep. They quickly said it on the broadcast, but then didn't go back to it. Like, oh nope, let's leave that alone.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure their producer's yelling at him like, leave it alone.
Hilarious. And Blitz kind of says something similar. Like, dude, garbage gets the game ball, which is Harbaugh, for ripping that red flag out of his assistant's pocket. Which again, yeah, he came back then when he came back on the sideline and just ripped it right out of him. Dude, I'm not a big Harbaugh fan. He's just, as much as we are sometimes at odds with the old school bulldog nature of Sean Payton, at least we don't have that skeleton of, old school ball in Jim Harbaugh. He's something else. He's a character, but my game ball is going to go to a guy that continues to show up. And I appreciate him for his wow factor. And I'm going to give one to Courtland Sutton. He had, 6 targets, 4 receptions for 53 yards in that tutty. But it's the one-handed tutty. And they showed on broadcast the flashback to last year against the Chargers, and he got that one-handed tutty from Russell Wilson. And I thought they were going to continue with that throwback, and they did not. They stopped there. But do you recall the infamous Drew Lock throw up against the Chargers?
Yep.
Court did the exact same thing in the end zone. The dude just... He's a baller. His skill set of what he does well may be the best in the NFL of what he does well. He is not necessarily consistent. He's not necessarily well-rounded, but he is a perfect situational wide receiver if you need that fade. If you need a quick third down, you got to have a catch kind of, just a possessional wide receiver. As he gets older, and if we keep him, if we do sign him and we're keeping Court for the long haul, I would love to invest in some speed on the outside and convert him to a slot guy. I think he would be an incredible slot guy in the same manner as Larry Fitzgerald later on in his career went to slot and was dynamite. The same thing you're seeing in Tampa Bay, Chris Godwin going to slot as a big-bodied wide receiver that you always think of, well, that's obviously going to be an X. That's going to be an outside guy. No, put him in the middle of the field and let him get those tight end routes. That's what Courtland Sutton would be phenomenal at. But obviously, we don't have the personnel. That's a luxury. We need 2 wide receivers before we get to that point. But yeah, dude, Courtland Sutton, game ball for me. Honorable mention. Devon Vele led our team in receiving yards again as a rookie. Tied Court in targets. So like Devon Vele is here to stay.
Yes, sir.
What a player, man. What a draft pick. I don't know who's taking credit for that, if it's George Payton or if it's Sean Payton, one of the Paytons, but man, tip to the hat for that pick. He's going to be something. He already is something. So just need the consistency out of him. Let's see here. Oh, Blitz. Jay, at least we have the Nuggets to root for together this year, buddy. Can't wait for the podcast on the Nuggets. We all know the Nuggets are going to the playoffs this year. Well, of course they're going to the playoffs. But again, I love cross-sport comparisons. This team desperately needs Russell Westbrook. And I mean the Broncos. Because what the Broncos are, well, they're not the same as the Nuggets, but what the Nuggets have been lacking is let's get the spark going. Let's get the adrenaline going of like, let's not just wait till the very end to turn on the machine. Let's turn on the machine the whole game. And Russell Westbrook's a light the fire under your ass kind of person and will be that for that team. And that's the exact personality the Broncos need, so that we're not waiting for an arbitrary coach to do that like Sean Payton.
Normally I like saying this when Johnny's here, but he's not here, but I'm pretty sure he's going to listen to it afterward. I'm a Bulls fan, so I can't relate.
Well, I mean, back in the day,
that gets his horn spinning every time I say that, and it cracks me up.
I got no problem with the Bulls. I got no problem with the Bulls. Now, D-Rock, on the other hand, you can go.
Yeah,
you know what yourself.
I don't like the Lakers either. Them whole making history thing annoys me.
Yeah, I'll pass. I'm a LeBron and LeBron-y fan, but hate the Lakers. Dude, what? What, Blitz? What?
I don't get that.
I just don't. Yeah, I don't know about all that. Sounds sus, as the kids say.
Yeah.
Got a new name in here, Zach Tracy. Sutton did not catch that pass. It clearly hit the ground. Are you? No, that's a Broncos jersey. I was going to say, are you a Chargers fan?
Well, I can understand from that aspect because the call, one of the announcers, the former, I forget what his name is, he clearly said from the other camera angle, it looked like the ground kind of helped Sutton make that catch as he slid. Something about control. So I thought it was going to get overturned, but I'm surprised that the refs left it wasn't
confirmed. So. It stands. So if it wasn't called a touchdown on the field, it would have stood. Either way, it would have stood because there was such lack of a video angle to be able to tell what, because the ball didn't visibly move. That's my thing is, yes, the ground could have helped control, but we don't know that for sure. All we can tell is if the ball moves or not, and it didn't move. So I wasn't surprised it stood. I just knew it wasn't going to be confirmed. But hey, we'll take it.
Definitely.
And Blitz says, yeah, and the Chargers got away with a lot of penalties. So I not a big penalty person. There weren't that many egregious penalties, I would say. It was a pretty fair officiating game. I don't know. Did you see anything like on either side officiating wise?
Which one was the one that put the Chargers, I think, in scoring position for that? There was a call that went against the Broncos secondary, and it looked
holding.
Like, yeah, I think it was the holding, and it was the one where Dobbins scored because it put them right in the red zone. So yeah. I do remember that one. But
in any football game, there are instances of gripes of officiating, and I think there are more impactful gripes than others. You sit down and watch a Chief game, and you can understand that, our game actually wasn't officiated that badly, because every single Chief game is like obvious that there is a swing of officiating. So at least we don't have that going for us until we play the Chiefs, of course. But that's that Taylor Swift effect. Blitz also says, "Hey boys, easy. LeBron is the GOAT." No,
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 not by a long shot.
actually, you're wrong. I'm sure, Don, you have your opinion in that whole battle of your MJ, Kobe, LeBron, and Jokic debate.
I'm
Obviously,
from
Jokic.
Chicago. I grew up on Michael Jordan. To me, Michael Jordan will always be my GOAT forever and ever.
That's pretty great. Yeah, West Coast, the best coast, D-Rock. I don't know. Biggie Smalls could probably say something about that.
You're killing me, Smalls.
Not to get into gang wars or whatnots, whatever color you like, red or blue, whatever. All right.
Bruh.
We're here to have fun, okay? All right. So just to kind of wrap this buck up here, Adon, any final thoughts on this 3-quarter massacre and 1-quarter okay game?
We keep saying this a lot, and I'm pretty sure we're going to keep saying it all season, Jay. There are ugly wins and beautiful losses. This one was neither of the two. This was just ugly as F. Okay.
Yep.
I'm trying not to take anything away from the fourth quarter, but to me, to take off our orange and blue colored glasses, folks, that was just almost garbage time touchdowns. Okay. That's why. And to me, I was really trying to hype myself up like, okay, but when you have to hype yourself up and say, okay, we need to score a touchdown and then we need to recover the ball. And then when you keep saying, and there's only like less than 3 minutes left with no timeouts, you're literally asking for the impossible. Okay. And you're just shooting. It's a Hail Mary of a time. And this, if the game was tied, like it was like a 3-point difference, I'd be okay with that. I'd understand. This is a division game. Division teams are going to play themselves tougher because they know each other and they play themselves more than they do any other team in the NFL. Okay. And to Bo Nix's credit, this is his first time going up against Justin Herbert. So now he has an idea of what to expect when they meet up in December. With that being said, the exact same thing cannot happen when the Broncos go to SoFi. They cannot go 3 quarters without scoring a single damn point and then wait until the last minute to try to come back. Okay. And injuries be damned, whether it's PS2 or who's ever behind them that goes out and plays. The mistakes that were made today, and there were a lot, and we're going to talk about them all week, all over Broncos media, need to be corrected and they need to be fixed. Unfortunately for the Broncos, it needs to be done sooner than later because even though the Saints don't have their Derek Carr, their starting quarterback, you cannot take them for granted with Spencer Rattler. Okay, they just played a division game, and even though they got shellacked by the Bucs,
put up 28 points.
Yeah, they put up 28 points, and one of them was a punt return, was a kick return for a touchdown. So they cannot go to the Superdome underestimating the Saints. And confidence is going to go in there being low with this loss. So they need to get that momentum back to keep it swinging because then they do have Carolina the following week. And then the schedule is going to get a little bit tougher for Bo Nix and company going forward after that. So the momentum that we lost in this game, Jay, needs to be recouped and brought back to Denver going forward and just keep the momentum. And even though it sucks that we have to start over with the winning streak, but hey, that's on to the next game.
I have a feeling that we are set up on a short week with a very emotional Sean Payton return to New Orleans game coming here, that he's going to say to Vance Joseph, I don't care if PS2 isn't playing. You're playing man, and you're going back to your blitz packages, what has been successful this entire time, because that's what's going to force a rookie quarterback like Spencer Rattler to make mistakes and to get turnovers for our defense. And that, to me, just a quick preview of Thursday night's game, that's going to be the difference. And I doubt we will see the more conservative approach out of our offense because of that. Also because Sean Payton wants to make a statement on national TV against his old team, his old organization, his old fans. So maybe what we've been wishing for, that we unlock Bo and let her fly, maybe we see that Thursday night. It could totally line up that way. Sean is, if anything, he is a egotistical person that wants to prove he is right all the time. And what better stage than in front of his old hometown on national TV? So it's going to be a good game either way. I'm excited for it.
Mm-hmm.
Bunch of drinking talk and whatnot. Just be responsible in your drinking, especially as we get into the Thursday night game. It's a school night. But folks, that's all we got for this edition of the Buck Your Feelings post-game show. I really appreciate y'all stopping by. And I didn't get to it before, but please like, share, and subscribe to the Orange and Blue Network, in which we are have the privilege of performing on. And we are also in partnership with MHRT Network. And they have a slew of amazing shows themselves. A new show, and I kind of pick a show to plug for MHRT Network almost every show here, but the Cluster Puck podcast, which I believe Mundungus will probably yell at me, but I believe is on Thursday nights. Go catch that if you're a hockey fan of the Avalanche specifically. I've kind of tuned into some replays of that because I can't really catch it live on Thursday nights, but love that show. Really good content. And as we spoke about earlier, we're going to be rolling out some Nugget content here soon. The Not Your Children's Nuggets podcast eventually here. So we will diversify our offerings as we get going. But again, thank you for all being here. Like, share, and subscribe. Orange and Blue Network. That's us. And then obviously we got Nothing Rhymes with Orange and Blue this Tuesday night. And then we got Broncos Talk on Wednesday night with your man right over there, Adon Diaz, 6'10" Mexican. So please, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, and then voila, we're on game day Thursday. So fast-paced week coming up ahead here on the short week. So it'd kind of be nice to have a Sunday off next week. I'm not going to lie. So for that, appreciate you all. I bid you adieu. Okay, bye.